In this 6 video series we will cover why you should pick a certain class, and I help you to figure out today if the Druid fits your playstyle. So in general, the Druid is best described as a nature-loving hippie on a bad LSD trip. Since he is so close to nature, he can talk to wild animals and convince them to fight for him. And if the trip kicks in too bad, he gains access to winds and storms, or just decides to let his enemies suffer from poisons. The Druid either wields powerful two-handed weapons, or goes for a one-handed weapon paired with a scary offhand to boost his damage. Those weapons get put aside if he chooses to instantly transform into a werewolf or a werebear. Nice side info maybe here: if you create your character of the Druid, make sure to choose the correct hair color, as your werebear and werewolf will change its looks based on the hair of your human. But now back to the point. The Druid has a set of 5 basic skills that allow him to generate his resource, which is basically called Spirit, and is later needed to cast heavy damage spells. And he also got the opportunity to become really tanky early on by speccing, for example, into Storm Strike, where he can gain 25% damage reduction, which is a huge advantage as a melee fighter class. The Druid's class speciality are the Spirit Boons, which allow him to talk to 4 different dead animals: the deer, the eagle, the snake, and the wolf. The spirits of those ghost animals can be passively strengthen him and also give him nice opportunities to get him some really great lucky hit effects ready. And as I said before, since the Druid sees the dead, he for sure had a lot of acid before. Next in the skill tree, we will find the 5 spirit skills. Just to mention 2 popular ones from the beta, there was the Pulverize, which if turned into an earth skill with a legendary, allowed massive damage while transforming into a werebear. But there was also an outstanding high DPS skill, the Tornado. The only downside here is you will not be able to choose the path in which the tornado will fly. But there's good news: there are legendaries that can help you out with this fact and make the tornado so it actually goes directly onto the enemies and will not fly into empty zones. Those are then followed by defensive skills. And this is also a point where one of the biggest strengths of the Druid is. He might not have access to high mobility skills, but with his barriers like Earthen Bulwark, Cyclone Armor, he is able to stack so much Fortify that you basically always walk around with the double amount of your health. In the next section of the skill tree we find the companion skills, which is basically your way of summoning animals that will assist you in the fight. Often used are the wolves, which you are able to command to seek out the prey and jump on them. You can even transform them into werewolves, killing enemies on command. And there's also the ravens, which allow you to easily spread your vulnerable debuffs on the enemies, and cause they will attack right from the sky. These are then followed by the Wrath skills, where you then gain access to shape-shifting cooldown skills like the Rabbies. That is also a great source for you to spec into a poison-style build. And also quite popular is the Hurricane, which will surround you with wind, so you're basically the eye of the storm, AoE damaging anyone that comes anywhere close to you. And this only gets topped by the ultimate skills, which are really powerful, but on the other hand also have extremely long cooldowns. Here the most popular one is Grizzly Rage, that transforms you into a werebear. But the clue is basically that whenever you kill an enemy in the werebear form, the effects are increased for another second. And this allows for a great frenzy, great killing sprees. So as long as you go into this blood rush, and you can keep those werebear forms up. Then the tree ends in 6 different key passives that are good indicators for new players as an example to determine in which direction a working build can go. So let's take a look at a couple here. For example, Bestial Rampage, where you can gain bonus stats if you maintain a shapeshift for a longer duration. Here a little spoiler: because there are supposed to be items in the late game that was already confirmed by the developers that will allow you to permanently keep a form. So this might be really interesting for this key passives because you can permanently unlock those passives and not only have it available in the short durations while you're actually casting a skill. Then we also have the stuff like Lupine Ferocity, where we deal extra damage on every 6th hit. So right here, if we manage to get a build going that's based on really high attack speed, this build could go nuts right here. Now let's summon up what we just heard and bring it together into the strengths and weaknesses of the Druid. The Druid is probably the class with the highest ability to stack Fortify, which makes him reasonably tanky, while still maintaining one of the highest burst damages of the game. This is due to his unique playstyle, which allows him to shapeshift into a werebear or a werewolf form. But this also means the lack of mobility we already mentioned is a huge issue, because this class needs to always be positioned perfectly to survive and deal lots of damage. And this is really hard as a close combat class. Another weakness is definitely the itemization on a Druid. The strength of your build is not found so much in the skill tree as for other classes. You rely on finding specific legendaries to determine your builds. Because for the Druid, there's so many legendaries that change the skills that you actually have, maybe transform the element and all this kind of stuff. So itemization, the most important part on the Druid, more important than on any other class. But on the other hand, once you get them finally, you can then easily say, thanks God, I picked the Druid and I am now a mean badass right there. So overall, I would say the weaknesses of the Druid are definitely handleable. And if you play it to perfection, you will enjoy a class of Diablo 4 that shapeshifts like no other. And now to the final recommendation. I personally think that Druids are for players that look to play a melee character that's not a tank, and rather a high DPS machine, but also not an assassin. So an offensive fighter that can take a punch is not a full tank, but still doesn't lack any damage, and you will still feel like it's a great clear speed as soon as you get your items there. Keep that in mind. And to play the Druid, you should have great map awareness, to always position yourself correctly, and you should be able to think in advance like a chess player. So it's not only important to know where you have to stand at this time, you should also know where you have to stand in the next seconds. So always think in advance if you're playing the Druid. And of course, if you're liking the animalistic playstyles, you have definitely found your best match in the Druid. He is an animal himself and he can command them as well. Yeah, and if you have any more questions about the Druid, let me know in the comments. I will always answer everything in less than 24 hours. And if you want to discuss your choice or builds, I highly recommend joining my Discord server to meet like-minded people. And the last thing before this video ends, on the 4th of June, when I'm coming home from my vacation, I will start live streaming daily on Twitch with a unique concept. We will play hardcore only, and if I die, this will trigger a community event in which the loyal viewers can earn nice rewards out of the cash shop. So you can earn skins, battle passes, mounts, all this kind of stuff. So don't forget to subscribe and follow to not miss out. Cheers.